What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. The NBA playoffs are heating up, and if you have been sleeping on the Denver-Minnesota series, then wake up right now, because it just became the most interesting series in the entire playoffs. The Wolves have taken a 3-1 series lead. The reigning MVP looks like a completely different player. And out of nowhere, a bench player just dropped 43 points in a playoff game. We have got injuries, we have got drama, we have got a team standing on the edge of elimination. Let us get into it. Before we talk about the fireworks, let us set the stage properly. Denver came into this series as the number 3 seed. They had home court advantage. Nikola Jokic was supposed to make this look easy against a Minnesota team that barely made the playoffs as the 6th seed. Simple series, right, wrong. Game 1, Denver wins at home, classic stuff. Nuggets look in control, and everyone is thinking this goes 7 games max. Then Denver moves on, no problem. But then Game 2 happens. Minnesota storms back at Ball Arena and steals the game. The Wolves start imposing their will in the paint, and Julius Randle starts making his presence felt. The warning signs were there for Denver. Nobody paid attention. Then the series shifts to Minnesota, and the Wolves go absolutely feral on their home floor. Game 3 is a blowout. Denver gets dismantled in the first half. Minnesota scored at will in the paint and was not just beating Denver, they were physically bullying them. And then Game 4, another dominant Minnesota win by the same margin. Back-to-back blowouts away from home. Denver is now in a 3-1 hole facing elimination. For a team built around a 3-time MVP, this is nothing short of a disaster. Let us talk about the biggest story of this series. The big man, the Joker, the guy who makes the entire basketball world stop every single time he touches the ball. Nikola Jokic is playing bad basketball right now. And I do not say that lightly. This is arguably the greatest offensive player of his generation, and this series has been genuinely painful to watch. The numbers from Game 4 tell the story. Jokic shot under 37% from the field, and his team was getting outscored every single minute he was on the floor. For a guy who is normally one of the most efficient scorers alive, that is a massive drop-off. And Game 3 was somehow even worse. He was shooting under 27% and looked completely out of rhythm the entire night. His team was being destroyed with the best player in the world on the court. So what is happening? Minnesota's defensive scheme has been brilliant. Rudy Gobert and Jaden McDaniels are clogging the paint and taking away all of Jokic's favorite spots. McDaniels in particular has been physical and relentless. On top of that, Jamal Murray has been inconsistent, which means the Wolves defense can focus everything on stopping Jokic without worrying too much about other threats. The one silver lining for Denver is that Jokic is still getting to the line. He was 8 for 8 from the stripe in Game 4 and 11 for 11 in Game 3. His rebounding and passing are still elite level, but the scoring is simply not there. If Denver is going to come back from 3-1 down, which only 13 teams have ever done in NBA history, then Jokic has to find his shot. The Nugget season is riding entirely on whether the real Joker shows up in Game 5. Now let us flip to the other side because Minnesota has their own storylines developing, and it starts with the face of their franchise, Anthony Edwards. Ant-Man, the guy who is supposed to be the main character of this entire postseason run. Edwards has been decent this series. He had a solid Game 3 and showed flashes of the player that has the whole league excited about his future. But Game 4 was not his night at all. He was ice cold from the field and finished with just 5 points. But here is what makes Minnesota so dangerous right now. They won by 16 anyway. They did not need Anthony Edwards to go for 35. They have enough firepower everywhere that even when their best player has a quiet night, they still dominate. That is a terrifying sign for the rest of the league. Edwards is still young and still learning how to take over in the playoffs, and we have seen him explode at any moment. Do not count him out in a potential closeout Game 5, because when the stage gets big, Ant tends to rise to it. Now let us talk about Dante DiVincenzo, because this is where things get a little worrying for Minnesota fans. DiVincenzo was outstanding in Game 3. He put up 15 points with 7 assists and 4 steals and was a massive part of why the Wolves ran Denver off the floor. But in Game 4, he barely played and had almost no impact before checking out early. Reports suggest he is dealing with a nagging injury, and Minnesota is clearly being cautious with him heading into what could be a closeout game. If DiVincenzo is limited in Game 5, that is a real hole for this Wolves team. His combination of shooting, defense, and playmaking is genuinely hard to replace, but even without him at full strength, Minnesota has shown more than enough depth to get the job done. Let us take a quick second to appreciate what Ayo Dosunmu did in Game 4, because it deserves to be mentioned. The man came off the bench and dropped 43 points while shooting lights out from everywhere on the floor. It was one of the most efficient scoring performances you will ever see in a playoff game, and Denver had absolutely no answer for him. That kind of performance from a bench player tells you everything you need to know about how deep and dangerous this Minnesota team really is. Now let us zoom out for a second, because there is a bigger conversation happening around this series. We are in the middle of an MVP race that is genuinely one of the most compelling in years. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been a monster all season for Oklahoma City. Wembanyama is out here making people question whether we are watching the beginning of the most unique career in NBA history. And then there is Jokic, who won the award 3 times already and was in the conversation again before these playoffs started. But what happens to Jokic's legacy if Denver gets eliminated in the first round while Shai and Wemby are out here putting on a show? That conversation is already starting. Jokic has always been defined by his playoff performances, and right now this series is adding a complicated chapter to that story. Shai has been dominant in Oklahoma City's series and looks every bit like a guy who deserves that MVP trophy. Wembanyama, meanwhile, is doing things that do not even look real for a player his age. The future is arriving fast, and it is arriving loud. If Denver goes home in the first round, the MVP debate is going to be deafening heading into the offseason. So here we are. Denver is facing elimination in Game 5. Back at home, they need Jokic to wake up. They need Murray to get real support, and they need their bench, which was absolutely torched by Minnesota's bench in Game 4, to actually contribute something meaningful. Minnesota just needs one more win, one more night of dominant basketball. And with this level of depth and energy, the Wolves look ready to close it out. Will Jokic finally have the performance Denver has been waiting for all series? Or will Minnesota punch their ticket to the second round and send the Nuggets home? Game 5 is Tuesday night, and I'll be back with the full breakdown, so make sure you are subscribed and have notifications on. Drop a comment below and tell me what you think. Can Denver pull off the comeback, or is this Wolves team just too much right now? Peace out, and as always, stay hooped up.